tactics. You hit a clean double. You cover like you always do in Folkstyle, and no points. No working for turns like you used to. Then you circle at the edge, step out for what you think is a reset, and your opponent gets a point. Today's episode is your shortcut. We're breaking down freestyle for Folkstyle wrestlers and families, what changes, what scores, what the edge means, and what to focus on first so your first freestyle tournament feels exciting, not confusing. Hi everyone and welcome back to the Illinois Girls Wrestling Podcast, the show that strives to create a supportive community for Illinois girls wrestling through storytelling and expert insights so that athletes, coaches, and families feel connected and empowered. Can this podcast be helpful for boys? Absolutely. We are sharing a lot of great information about wrestling that boys can learn from. However, we also want to give girls and their families a space they can call their own. If you're a Folkstyle wrestler or parent of one and you keep hearing freestyle season, Greco, Parterre, exposure, and you're thinking, I don't actually know what I'm watching, this episode is for you. Quick note, rules can slightly vary by age group and event, but the big idea is consistent. And if you're unsure, ask your coach or tournament director. No shame in that. Let's translate freestyle into Folkstyle terms. Difference number 1. Control matters less than scoring. In Folkstyle, you keep building an entire match around control, riding, pressure, mat returns, breaking someone down. In freestyle, you are rewarded for action, takedowns, turns, and especially exposure. Difference number 2. There is no riding time. So if you're thinking, I'll hold them down and work, freestyle basically says work faster. You want quick scores and quick turns. Difference number 3. Exposure is everything. Exposure means you turn your opponent so that their back is facing the mat, even if it's not a full pin situation. In freestyle, that moment counts. Difference number 4. The edge is not your friend. In Folkstyle, going out often feels like a reset and a breath. In freestyle, stepping out can give a point so that the edge becomes a strategy zone, not a break. If that already feels like a lot, don't worry. You don't have to learn everything at once. Just knowing what the sport rewards changes how you watch and how you wrestle. Here is a simple scoring map to keep in your head. Think of it like as a scoreboard translator. 1 point, step out. You go out of bounds at the edge and your opponent is pressing the action. You can also get 1 point for some penalties or cautions. 2 points, takedown, clean takedown and control. You can also get 2 points for exposure or turn, meaning you expose the back toward the mat, the danger moment. 4 points, a bigger throw or action that brings them into a danger with more impact. 5 points, the biggest throw, big amplitude straight into the danger. And 1 more that matters a lot for parents tracking matches. Tag fall in freestyle is typically a 10-point lead. Match can end early when the gap gets big. If you're new, don't try to memorize every edge case rule on day 1. Start with this. Step out, 1. Takedown, 2. Exposure, points. Big throws, 4 or 5 points. Let's talk about the moment that confuses Folkstyle families the most. The boundaries. In Folkstyle, you often wrestle until you're out and then you reset. In freestyle, if you back out, drift out, or step out while defending, you can give up a point. So the best beginner habit is simple. Circle in, don't back straight out. If you feel yourself getting pushed, attack first. Even a quick reshot or a motion stab can save you points. Okay, now we've got some of the basics, and I'm bringing in today's guest to make this real life and practical. We're going to talk common first tournament mistakes, what to focus on in practice, and how Greco potentially fits into this whole scenario. Kyley Bair began her wrestling journey at the age of 12 with the Peoria Wizards Wrestling Club in the IKWF. She went on to wrestle all 4 years at Richwoods High School, where she was a 4-year varsity starter. In addition, she represented her state as a former member of Team Illinois at Fargo. Currently, Kylie wrestles at Eureka College. She gray-shirted this year and plans to compete for the team over the next 2 seasons. Outside of her college career, Kylie gives back to the sport by coaching girls in her community during Freestyle season. Welcome to the show, Kylie.
Hi.
Today, we are talking about freestyle. And I know for so many girls, this might be, hey, this is the end of the season, probably going to move on to the next sport unless there is something else. So this might be the season a lot of girls will get an introduction to a whole different style of wrestling, which is the only wrestling college female wrestlers wrestle. And so let's just, as a warm-up, let's just get a quick understanding. For a Folkstyle wrestler walking into first freestyle season, what do you feel is the number one mindset shift?
I think that you would have to really understand the difference between the positions in freestyle compared to folkstyle. So really focusing on that referee's position, something that you can really get into anymore, that there's a whole different bottom position that you're not seeing in folkstyle. And just understanding that you're not able to be in certain positions anymore, and that they're two completely different styles, and you just don't get to be in some of the spots that you might be comfortable in or allowed in folkstyle. That's just not allowed in freestyle.
What do you think is the most common first freestyle tournament mistake that you expect people to make, or what you have seen?
It's, again, just understanding the different positions. I will see, like, a lot of times when you get taken down in freestyle for the first time, you immediately want to go into referee's position instead of being in parterre and being belly. So I think that just understanding the differences in the positionings is one of the biggest things that these new kids are understanding, and knowing that you need to be not stepping out of bounds, just those little different things that folk style doesn't have that freestyle does.
And I feel like stepping out of bounds is a big one.
Yeah, so in freestyle, you are penalized for stepping out of the circle, and that is called a push-out point. So at any point in your match, if you are working on the edge and your opponent makes you step out of the circle, they receive a point for that.
Well, and since we already started talking about scoring, let's keep going. Would you explain the exposure is in the simplest way possible? What should athletes and parents look for?
Yeah, so the simplest way to explain that is once your back breaks that 90 degrees towards the mat, that's an exposure point. It's pretty similar to getting back points in folk style, except in folk style, you have to break 45 degrees. In freestyle, you only need 90, and you don't ever have to break your grip. You can use the same like pinning combo or anything to get that 90 degrees and keep receiving points for making them belly out, go back 90 degrees, belly out, go back 90 degrees. That is 2 exposure points every time that you get past that 90.
Oh, and that's another difference. For years, we had the folk style takedown was always 2 points. Now we are 3 points. But in freestyle, it's still 2 points, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. And what's considered a pin in freestyle, and how is it different from folk style?
Pin in freestyle, we are doing instant back to mat, that is a pin. It's touch fall. So for folk style, you can fight off your back for a little while as long as you don't have that back points fully out there, or if you're still fighting, shoulder blades aren't fully on the mat, you can fight there for a while in folk style. But for freestyle, once your shoulder blades are down on the mat, there's no back points, so you get touch fall.
Okay, so that might be a second. Half a second?
Hmm.
So there is no, you don't have like that 3 second, where the ref is looking and seeing, oh, are you actually there or not? So it
Yeah,
goes,
no, that's not freestyle.
so it's a lot faster. If you could teach,
Oh, yeah.
if you could teach one scoring concept first to a new family, what would that be?
It would definitely be takedowns. I feel like in general that whenever you're learning wrestling, you need to be honed in on your takedowns. But if we want to get more specific for the freestyle aspect, takedowns leading to exposure is something that it should be really emphasized when you're switching over because you want to be getting big scores. You only need 10 points in freestyle to get a tech fall, and you have big points and different moves to get those big points in freestyle. There's one move alone that's worth 5 points. So that's half of a tech fall right there. So if you get that twice, the match can be done so quickly. So focusing on getting takedowns and transitioning into exposure, even just basic move like double leg straight to someone's back, that's 4 points right there. So just really focusing on what takedowns can get you big points in freestyle.
Are there any misunderstood points for folk style families going into freestyle?
Yeah, I think passivity is probably the most misunderstood because we're used to in folk style getting stalling calls, and that's pretty similar to passivity in freestyle. Passivity is not having that action being presented in the match, and you actually can get put on a shot clock in freestyle for having passivity called on you, which is kind of similar to getting the point for stalling in folk style. But you have a 30-second shot clock where if you don't score in those 30 seconds, you are going to get a point against you. So your opponent will receive a point. So making sure to understand what passivity is you need to be controlling the center, initiating moves, and having that forward pressure. Because if you're constantly backing up, you're probably going to get hit for a passivity. And, freestyle rewards the wrestler who is controlling the center and looking like they're the one dictating the action. They'll get that point.
I know in so many folk style matches, we win in overtimes. Are there overtimes in freestyle?
There actually is not overtime in freestyle. You can tie in freestyle and you will receive criteria points to understand who's winning the match. If you end in a tie and you both have a takedown, so it's 2-2, the first person to score it or the most recent person to score in that match will be the one that is going to win the match. But there's a lot more that goes into that too, because if you have a takedown where you got exposure into it, like a blast double straight to somebody's back, you will win because you had the bigger move.
That's already a little bit overwhelming, maybe, for some of the families. So I think
Hmm.
just take your time trying to understand it, go to a developmental, and I feel like developmental tournaments are a lot more forgiving. And they even come with
Hmm.
the clinic usually at the beginning. So just to transition folk style wrestlers into freestyle. Let's talk a little bit about strategy and match flow. We have mentioned, well, you have mentioned a little bit about edge awareness. What causes wrestlers to give up step out points, and how do you coach the fix for it?
Yeah, so I will say it's just one, a lack of mat awareness, not knowing exactly where you're at while you're wrestling. And that just comes with time. You have to learn where you're at, especially switching to freestyle where you're getting points against you if you are stepping out. That's just something that we're not always used to coming into folk style because you can run out of bounds and just get put right back in the center and there's no penalty against that. So just being just aware of where you're at on the mat is one thing that you really should focus on. And to coach that, you just need to drill it. Work on that position. Start drilling edge scenarios. Start going live on that boundary edge and just teach them to circle back to center, to not feed into them pushing you out, and just feel where you're at all times while you're wrestling.
What's a smart freestyle pace plan for beginners so they don't guess out or stall unintentionally?
Yeah, I'll say it's pretty much the same between the two, folkstyle and freestyle, just really training in those little explosive spots where you're at. Freestyle is a lot of little bursts and explosions. So really honing in on that for the freestyle training, because you'll have a lot of short explosive exchanges in freestyle, especially with all the big throws that you can do. So training in those types of exchanges will be something that's really beneficial for you, because in folk style you can really grind in one certain position for a long time and get your riding time and things of that nature. But in freestyle you're back on your feet after 10 seconds when you're on top. So just training to be able to be explosive, to have those quick bursts, will really help you build your freestyle action.
Awesome. And in freestyle, what should a wrestler do differently after a takedown compared to folk style?
I'll say the one thing that you really should be focusing on is your urgency. You want to be getting that instant transition into exposing your opponent. In folk style, you can secure control and work from there and then slip stuff in to turn your opponent. But in freestyle, you have a really small window, since the ref will give you like 10 seconds to work, and then they'll bring you back to your feet. Freestyle is a lot more neutral than anything. You don't even get choice of positioning after the period. You are always neutral when you start your match and in between periods. So being able to hurry up and use that small window of time you do have while you're on top is really something that you have to focus on after your takedowns.
Mhm. You have mentioned the word parterre, and I'm sure some people are like, "What is that?" So let's let's just go about parterre basics. What is it? What should the wrestlers focus on first?
Yeah, so parterre is essentially freestyle's bottom position. You are, instead of being on your hands and your knees, you are flat on your stomach, and that's where you fight out on bottom with. You will be arms and hands spread out like you're a starfish. And that is essentially just what parterre is. And I think that for a beginner, you really should be focusing on your defense first, just because it's such a different position for you. And it's not like you can stand up. You're not allowed to stand up and get an escape point in freestyle. So focusing on defending, because you have to defend for that 15-second window where the person is on top. So once you learn how to defend turns and how to stay tight, how to feel pressure, keep your body awareness, you'll be a lot safer in parterre than anything else. Because if you can't defend, you won't survive long enough to use your offense later and be that person on top trying to get turns, you getting exposure on your opponent. So I think you should defend first, then build your offense.
And if you're on top, what is the high percentage churn that you recommend beginners learn first?
This isn't even just for beginners, just in general. Usually laces are a lot more effective. So leg laces, they're just a better positioning for yourself too, for if anything might happen, you might slip in your move. You're at a lot less risk of getting reversed or getting exposure against you. I think that it's a big mistake to have a lot of lack of pressure and bad positioning. So using that leg lace, as long as you're tight and you control the legs, you can push through and get tons of exposure, because it's also a move where once you lock it up, you can end the match with it pretty quickly.
And if you're again on the bottom, what do you do to not give up points?
Just staying stuck to the mat and being flat and using your opponent's pressure, feeling them to be able to judge where they're going. If you're flat and accepting the pressure, you're going to get turned. So you have to stay tight, stay compact to the mat, and feel what's happening to you to be able to defend what's going on. Because just because you have to stay flat and eagled out, you know, starfished out, you don't have to give up these turns. You can push back in, give pressure back so they're not able to get that exposure on you.
So if you're on the bottom, you're on the starfish position,
Mhm.
and you're not going in, nothing gives, they cannot turn you. What happens next?
Yeah, so if you can't or you're not giving up turns, the person on top can't turn you within like 10, 15 seconds. Once that action stops, the ref's going to blow their whistle. They're going to bring you guys back to your feet and you're going to start neutral.
Bad news, you cannot score the escape point, but the good news, you do not give up points if you just stick to the floor.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, so I feel like many of our folk style families are saying, oh my God, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, are there any good folk style practices that could be easily carried over into freestyle?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Hand fighting is a huge skill that is used and can help you so much going into freestyle. Also, finishing your shots, having clean shots, that matters even more in freestyle. If you have a good, clean shot and get takedowns, takedowns are 2 points in freestyle. All you need is 10 for a tech. That's only 5 shots that you need to finish, and you're teched just from taking shots, not even doing any of the freestyle exposure.
And for any wrestler who either trained last season in a feeder club or wrestle as a part of the high school team, how would you go about finding a place to wrestle for off-season?
Yeah, so I was someone who wrestled in a feeder club and wrestled for my high school. I had the same coach up until I got into college. But I worked around, I found some other people, I went and trained with other off-season clubs when my club wasn't working. And I feel like the easiest way to find those clubs is one, just talk to people at tournaments, ask around. People are always looking for other people to join their club, especially if you're a good wrestler and you're looking for experience. Tons of people will want that in their club. And check Facebook wrestling groups in your area. I feel like wrestling on Facebook and having all of those groups and all of that stuff is such a good way to find things. Facebook will really help you a lot. You can also, I know a lot of clubs will have drop in sessions before committing to joining the club. Just go try different clubs, find something you like. You're never stuck to anything. You're the one paying to be there. So try some different places out before you really commit to one.
You started wrestling when you were how old?
12.
12. So, did you immediately become a full-time wrestler, or were you doing other sports and only wrestled in season?
No, yeah, that's a great question. I was not just a wrestler. I played soccer up until my junior year of high school. And then in that off season, I decided that this is what I wanted to do. This is where I wanted to take myself and be in college for wrestling. So not everybody does this, but I quit my soccer. Yeah, I decided that from then, once I placed at state my junior year, I was like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to spend any time doing anything else besides wrestling. So I decided that I was going to be a full time wrestler.
And once you went into, I think you probably will admit that being a good folk style wrestler and placing in state and then going into freestyle, you go, hey, why am I so bad?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you're on the bottom of the barrel because now you're competing the girls that compete all year around and train all year around. So when did the freestyle finally clicked for you?
Yeah, I mean, I instantly loved freestyle. I enjoyed it so much more than folk style. Just the difference in pace was just so much nicer to me. Like I loved it. I've always been a quick person with a good gas tank coming from soccer, running so much that having those quick bursts that you do in freestyle was always so nice. So I feel like once I understood exposure essentially was kind of once I was like, "Oh, yeah, I understand this now." Like, that's one of the hardest things to understand is exposure and not getting exposed.
Talk maybe a little bit about you. You wrestled in feeder club, you wrestled at high school, and now you're wrestling at college. Would you tell us a little bit more about when you decided to go continue wrestling in college? How did your process look like? Did you right away knew which college you want to go to? What did your recruiting process look like?
Yeah, so I'll say once I switched over and I was like, I'm gonna be a full-time wrestler is really when I decided that I wanted to do this in college. So that was just around the end of my junior year, going in my senior year. And I actually committed pretty late in the year. I committed after my season had finished off. And yeah, I was throughout my senior season, I was going to different schools, touring, saw different couple programs. I went to 3 different states, looked at a bunch of different programs, different divisions as well. And it took me a while. I was the type of person that I wanted to feel at home while I was at the college, so that was something that I really took into consideration, what team felt like a family to me, and just really focusing on the stuff that I knew I wanted, even though there were some programs that were not as new. My program that I joined was a pretty new program. I thought that they fit everything that I wanted and needed in a team. So I committed after my senior season was over, which is pretty late compared to others.
Mhm. And for somebody who might be a senior and thinking, oh my God, I am so late in the game. What should I do? And maybe for junior who's thinking, I guess this is the time for me to start to look around. Where would you start in this process?
Yeah. So, one, most of the time, you're not too late. So, don't just give up because you think that you're running late. You really aren't. I know that there are people on my Instagram that are still committing right now, and we're getting deep, deeper and deeper into the season. So, don't think that you're too late. And if you're just starting out the recruiting process, check everything out. Social media is a big one. Check out Instagrams, check out Facebooks, look at all that different stuff. Talk to people. A lot of college girls will talk to people that are thinking about coming there. Just reach out to people, see how everyone's feeling, build those relationships so you can really see inside the program.
How important do you feel it is actually physically going to college and looking around and touching and feeling things?
Yeah, it's a lot tougher. I'll be honest. If you haven't ever trained that's like a higher pace, like being on Team Illinois was a big eye opener for me. I had never trained that intensely before. So going into college, once I had a little bit of that experience, I was a little bit more aware of how things were going to be, but I feel like you can catch on really quickly and you gotta want it. That's the big thing is you can tell in the mat room who wants to be there and who wants to be the best. And I feel like if you have that kind of mindset, being in a college room will just feed into that and you will become one of the best people in the room.
Awesome. How, when it comes to the tournaments, a lot of the season includes duels with other team. As a third, fourth year wrestler, you might not even see really, really good girls until the end of the season. How is that compares to wrestling in college?
Oh yeah, I know my team specifically, we love going to tournaments. We do all that kind of stuff. We have some duels mixed in throughout the season, but tournaments are where you see the competition. And especially with women's freestyle wrestling in college, it's not separated by division like the men are. So usually you'll stay within your division. Men will be wrestling their D1s, their D2s, and their D3s all separate. Women aren't like that. We wrestle each other all the time. My regional, my freshman year, I had the University of Iowa, the Hawkeyes in it, and I am in a small D3 college. So just getting that experience, wrestling them earlier in the season so you can make those small changes that you need to for your style and how you're competing. And just being able to see that good competition all year round just makes the end of the year go by so much smoother.
Is your season as long as a folk style season in high school?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
So what do you do after the season is over?
We do a lot of postseason training. So we also host a couple clubs at my college. We are RTC, we are Central Illinois Regional Training Center. So we host a lot of stuff, help give back to our community while also having our private college practices. So we do a lot of wrestling still.
So what that means is the wrestling doesn't necessarily stop when the
Mhm.
season is over.
Yeah, no, if you wanna be one of the best, you gotta be training year-round.
Awesome. What is your favorite facility at your campus?
Oh, I love our wrestling room so much. We are developing it now still, and we're getting all of the stuff that we need so that we don't even have to go and share with the other sports at our school. So we're building a weight room right now in our facility, so we'll be able to lift in our room and wrestle in our room.
Awesome. And it sounds like you love being a part of that process.
Oh yeah, definitely love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for getting on a call today. This was very insightful. I really hope that we shared some valuable knowledge with new families. We hope that we encourage some of the Folkstyle girls to step up and try in off-season wrestling. And hopefully for some upperclassmates, you got a little bit of the knowledge of where to start your recruiting process. Kylie,
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Quick Greco breakdown, because Greco is the one that feels the most different. Here are the general rules: no holds below the waist, no leg attacks, no shots, and you are not using your legs to trip or block like you might do in other styles. So Greco becomes a masterclass in hand fighting, head position, underhooks and overhooks, and body locks. Balance and pressure are very important. And honestly, even a short Greco session can make you tougher in every style because you learn how to win position. If you only remember a few things from today, remember this: freestyle rewards motion, scoring, and exposure. The edge matters, and you don't have to master everything to get started. You just need a few guiding rules so you're not surprised. If you're a parent listening and you feel overwhelmed, it's totally normal. Freestyle looks crazy until you understand what earns points. The good news is your athlete does not need to master everything at once. Start with the basics, stay in, keep moving, and look for exposure. The confidence comes fast when the rules stop being a mystery. Thank you for joining us at the Illinois Girls Wrestling Podcast. Wrestling is more than a sport. It's a community, and we are thrilled to have you here. If you enjoyed this discussion, make sure to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Have a question or topic you want us to cover? Drop us a message on social media or email us at ilgirlswrestling@gmail.com. We are on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Until next time.